My daughter, Emily, turned 3 on a Saturday in October. We had a small party at the house with family and a few of her friends from daycare. Cake, presents, the whole thing. My wife, Claire, spent most of the party on her phone. I didn't think much of it at first. She'd been distant for months. Working late, girls' nights out. The usual signs I'd been ignoring because I didn't want to believe what they meant. That evening, after everyone left and Emily was asleep, I was cleaning up the kitchen when Claire came in. "We need to talk," she said. I turned around. She was standing in the doorway with her arms crossed, looking at me with an expression I couldn't read. "Okay, what's up?" "I want a divorce." The plate I was holding nearly slipped from my hands. "What?" "I'm not happy, Daniel. I haven't been happy for a long time. I want out." I set the plate down carefully. "Where is this coming from?" "Does it matter? I want a divorce. I've already talked to a lawyer." "You've already?" "Claire, we have a 3-year-old daughter. Don't you think we should try counseling first?" "No, I'm done. My lawyer will be sending you papers next week." She turned to leave. "Wait, is there someone else?" She stopped, didn't turn around. "That's none of your business anymore. It is if you're leaving me for another man while we're still married." She looked back at me. "Fine. Yes, there's someone else. His name is Brett. We've been seeing each other for 8 months. I'm in love with him, and I'm leaving you to be with him." 8 months. I thought back. 8 months ago was February, right after Emily's 2nd birthday party. Does he know about Emily? Of course he knows. And he's excited to be part of her life. He'll be a better father to her than you've ever been. That stung. I've been working 60-hour weeks at the construction company. I want to provide for our family, to give Claire the life she wanted. And this was how she saw me. "I've been working to take care of you both. You've been absent. Emily barely knows you. Brett is already more of a father to her than you are." What the hell does that mean? It means he's been around. He's been helping me with her, taking care of her when you're too busy with work. My blood ran cold. "You've been bringing this man around our daughter? Behind my back? Don't act like you care. You're never home anyway." "I'm home every night. I coach Emily's soccer on Saturdays. I read to her every night before bed." "What are you talking about?" "Whatever, Daniel. This conversation is over. I'll be staying in the guest room until the divorce is final. My lawyer will contact yours." She left. I stood in the kitchen, surrounded by birthday decorations and wrapping paper, trying to process what had just happened. My wife was leaving me. She'd been having an affair for 8 months, and she'd been bringing her boyfriend around our daughter without my knowledge. I went upstairs and checked on Emily. She was asleep in her bed, clutching her favorite stuffed rabbit. She looked so peaceful, so innocent. I sat in the chair next to her bed and watched her sleep, and something inside me hardened. Claire could leave. That was her choice. But she wasn't taking my daughter from me. The next morning, I called my attorney, Robert Morrison. He'd helped me set up my LLC and handle contract for my business. "Robert, I need a divorce attorney. The best one you know." "What happened?" "My wife just told me she wanted a divorce. She's been having an affair for 8 months, and she's been bringing the guy around our daughter without telling me." "Christ, Daniel. I'm sorry. Let me make some calls. I'll get back to you within the hour." He called back 45 minutes later. "Patricia Vaughn. She's expensive, but she's the best family law attorney in the state. I explained your situation. She can see you tomorrow at 9 a.m. I'll be there." That evening, Claire came home late. I was giving Emily her bath. "Where were you?" I asked when she finally appeared. "With Brett." "Not that it's your concern. It is my concern when you're supposed to be home taking care of our daughter." "She's fine. You're here. That's not the point." She rolled her eyes. "I'm not doing this with you, Daniel. Save it for the lawyers." She went to the guest room and closed the door. I dried Emily off, got her into her pajamas, and read her 3 books before bed. "Daddy, why is Mommy sleeping in the other room?" she asked. "Mommy's not feeling well, sweetheart. She needs her own space for a little while. Is she going to be okay?" "Everything's going to be okay. I promise." I kissed her forehead and turned off the light. The next morning at 9 a.m., I was in Patricia Vaughn's office. She was in her 50s, sharp-eyed, with the kind of presence that commanded attention. "Mr. Carson, Robert told me about your situation. Tell me everything." I laid it out. Claire's announcement, the affair, her bringing Brett around Emily, her claim that he was more of a father than I was. Patricia took notes. "How long have you been married?" 5 years. "And Emily is 3. Just turned 3 yesterday. Do you have any evidence of the affair?" "Just her admission. She told me directly. Good. That's admissible. What about her claims that you're an absent father? Completely false. I work hard. Yes, but I'm home every evening. I spend weekends with Emily. I'm very involved in her life. Can anyone corroborate that? My employees can confirm my work hours. Emily's daycare can confirm pickup and drop-off schedules. I have photos and videos on my phone of activities with Emily. Excellent. Start documenting everything. Every interaction with Emily. Every time Claire is absent. Every time she prioritizes Brett over her daughter. We'll need it. What about custody? That's where this gets interesting. In this state, courts favor shared custody unless there's a reason to believe one parent is unfit. The fact that she's bringing her affair partner around your daughter without your knowledge is problematic. It shows poor judgment. So, I have a chance at primary custody. More than a chance. If we can prove she's prioritizing her affair over Emily's well-being, we can make a strong case. But Daniel, I need to ask you something. Anything. Are you prepared for this to get ugly? Because it will. She's going to fight. And when people fight over children, they say and do terrible things. I'm prepared. Emily is my priority. Whatever it takes. Good. I'll file a response to her divorce petition as soon as we receive it. In the meantime, document everything. Over the next week, I did exactly that. I kept a log of every time I cared for Emily, every meal I made, every book I read, every bath I gave. I also documented every time Claire was absent. Late nights, weekends away, evenings when she chose to go out instead of being home with Emily. The pattern was clear. I was the primary caregiver. Claire was barely present. On Thursday, I was served with divorce papers at work. My foreman handed them to me with a sympathetic look. Sorry, boss. I opened the envelope and read through the petition. Claire was asking for primary custody of Emily, child support, alimony, and half of everything including my business. I called Patricia immediately. They're asking for everything, including my company. Let them ask. We'll respond appropriately. Did you get the evidence I requested? I'm compiling it now. But Patricia, there's something else. Claire said Emily barely knows me, that I'm not involved. But I am. I'm very involved. I believe you. But we need to prove it. Photos, videos, witness statements, anything you can get. That weekend, I took Emily to the park. We played on the swings, fed the ducks, got ice cream. I took photos of everything. When we got home, Claire was there with Brett. He was sitting on my couch, in my house, like he belonged there. I felt my jaw tighten. Emily, go play in your room for a minute, okay? Okay, Daddy. She ran upstairs. I turned to Claire and Brett. Get out of my house. Brett stood up. He was younger than me, maybe 28. Athletic build, cocky expression. This is Claire's house too, man. I have a right to be here. No, you don't. This house is in my name only. I bought it before we were married. You're not welcome here. Claire stepped between us. Daniel, calm down. I am calm. But he needs to leave. Now. Or what? Brett challenged. Or I call the police and have you removed for trespassing. Claire grabbed Brett's arm. Let's just go. He's not worth it. Yeah, I'm not worth it, I said. But you're worth leaving your daughter on a Sunday afternoon to hang out with your boyfriend. Don't start with me, Daniel. I'm not starting anything. I'm ending it. Get out. Both of you. They left. I locked the door behind them and went upstairs to check on Emily. She was playing with her dolls, oblivious to the tension. Is Mommy coming back? She asked. Not tonight, sweetheart. It's just you and me. I like when it's just you and me, Daddy. My heart broke a little. Me too, baby. Me too. 2 weeks later, we had our first court hearing. Temporary orders for custody and support while the divorce was pending. Claire showed up with her attorney, a slick guy named Richard Hayes who wore an expensive suit and too much cologne. We sat on opposite sides of the courtroom. Claire wouldn't look at me. The judge was a woman in her 60s named Judge Martha Reynolds. She had a reputation for being fair but tough. Richard Hayes spoke first. Your Honor, my client is seeking primary custody of the minor child, Emily Carson, age 3. Mrs. Carson has been the primary caregiver since birth. Mr. Carson works 60 to 70 hours per week and is rarely home. Patricia stood up. Your Honor, that's demonstrably false. We have documentation showing that Mr. Carson works standard business hours and is home every evening and weekend. He's the one who handles bedtime routines, prepares meals, and takes Emily to her activities. Do you have evidence of this? Judge Reynolds asked. Patricia handed over a folder. Time logs for the past month showing Mr. Carson's presence in the home, photos and videos of father-daughter activities, statements from Emily's daycare confirming Mr. Carson handles pickup and drop-off, and phone records showing Mrs. Carson's absences. The judge reviewed the documents. Mrs. Carson, is it true you've been absent from the home frequently? Claire's attorney whispered to her. She nodded. I've been going through a difficult time, Your Honor. The marriage has been strained. That doesn't answer my question. Have you been absent from the home frequently? Sometimes, yes. And during these absences, who cares for Emily? Daniel does. I see. Mr. Hayes, does your client have employment? No, Your Honor. She's a stay-at-home mother. But she's not home. So she's not staying home with the child, is she? Richard Hayes shifted uncomfortably. She's been dealing with emotional distress from the marriage breakdown. While having an affair, Patricia interjected. Judge Reynolds looked at Claire. Mrs. Carson, are you involved in an extramarital relationship? Claire hesitated. Yes, Your Honor. And have you introduced this person to your 3-year-old daughter? Another hesitation. Yes. How long have you been seeing this person? About 8 months. Judge Reynolds made a note. And your daughter has known him for how long? A few months. I see. She looked at both attorneys. Here's my temporary order. Joint custody, week on, week off. Mr. Carson will pay no child support during this period, as both parents will have equal time. Mrs. Carson will pay her own living expenses. No alimony at this time. We'll revisit in 3 months. Richard Hayes stood up. Your Honor, my client needs financial support. She has no income. Your client is an able-bodied adult with no medical conditions preventing her from working. She can get a job. Temporary orders are set. Next case. We left the courtroom. Patricia looked satisfied. That went well. She didn't get anything she asked for. Exactly. Reynolds saw through the narrative. Now we build our case for primary custody. Over the next 3 months, I documented everything. Every week I had Emily. I kept detailed records. Photos, activities, meals, bedtimes, everything. During Claire's weeks, I heard from Emily about how Mommy was always with Brett. How Brett bought her things and tried to get her to call him Daddy. I gritted my teeth and kept documenting. Then one day, Emily said something that stopped me cold. Daddy, Brett says you're not my real daddy. I knelt down to her level. What do you mean, sweetheart? He said my real daddy is someone else. He said he's going to be my new daddy. Rage boiled up inside me, but I kept my voice calm. Emily, I am your daddy. I was there when you were born. I've been here your whole life. Brett is wrong. That's what I thought. Can I have a snack? Of course. I got her a snack and then immediately called Patricia. Claire's boyfriend is telling Emily I'm not her real father. That's parental alienation. Document it. Write down exactly what Emily said and when. We'll use it. I wrote it down. Then I started thinking, why would Brett say that unless Claire had told him something? I went through my phone and found photos from when Claire was pregnant. She'd been so happy, so excited. We both were. Then I thought about the timeline. We'd been married for 2 years when Emily was born. Claire got pregnant about 6 months after the wedding. Had she been faithful then? I called my doctor and made an appointment. I need a paternity test. I told him. Daniel, are you sure about this? I need to know. Can you do it? We can order one, yes. You'll need a sample from Emily. A cheek swab will work. Do it. 2 days later, the results came back. I sat in my car outside the medical office and opened the envelope. Probability of paternity, 99.9%. Emily was mine. Biologically, legally, in every way that mattered. I called Patricia. I got a paternity test. Emily is definitely my biological daughter. Why did you get a test? Because Brett has been telling Emily I'm not her real father. I wanted to make sure I had proof that I am. Smart. That shuts down any questions and proves Brett is lying to a 3-year-old about her paternity. That's going to play very badly for Claire. The final divorce hearing was scheduled for December, 9 months after Claire had asked for the divorce. We walked into the courtroom on a cold Tuesday morning. Claire was there with Richard Hayes. Brett was sitting in the gallery, smirking. Judge Reynolds reviewed the case file. We're here to finalize custody arrangements and division of assets. Mr. Hayes, what is your client seeking? Primary custody, Your Honor. Mrs. Carson believes she's the more appropriate primary parent. She's seeking child support, alimony, and 50% of Mr. Carson's business. Ms. Vaughn. Patricia stood. Mr. Carson is seeking primary custody, based on his demonstrated role as the primary caregiver. He's seeking no alimony for Mrs. Carson, given her adultery. The business was started before the marriage and is separate property. We're willing to offer a small settlement to Mrs. Carson to expedite this process, but we're not conceding on custody. Judge Reynolds looked at the evidence we'd submitted. Time logs, photos, daycare records, testimony from Emily's doctor about who brought her to appointments. Mrs. Carson, I've reviewed the evidence. It appears Mr. Carson has been the primary caregiver for Emily despite working full-time. Can you explain this discrepancy? Claire's attorney whispered to her. I've been dealing with depression, Your Honor. The marriage was difficult. Yet you've had time to maintain an affair for 8 months and introduce your daughter to your boyfriend. That suggests selective depression. Richard Hayes jumped in. Your Honor, my client's mental health is not on trial here. Her fitness as a parent is. And introducing a new romantic partner to a small child during a divorce shows poor judgment. What else do you have? Richard shuffled papers. Your Honor, there's a question of paternity. The courtroom went silent. I felt my blood pressure spike. Excuse me, Judge Reynolds said. Mrs. Carson has reason to believe Mr. Carson may not be Emily's biological father. Patricia shot to her feet. Your Honor, this is outrageous. We have a paternity test right here, showing 99.9% probability that Mr. Carson is Emily's father. She handed the document to the clerk, who passed it to the judge. Judge Reynolds reviewed it. Mr. Hayes, do you have any evidence contradicting this test? Well, no, Your Honor, but then why are we discussing paternity? Claire leaned over and whispered urgently to her attorney. He listened, then spoke. Your Honor, Mrs. Carson would like to request her own paternity test. On what grounds? There's already a valid test showing Mr. Carson is the father. Mrs. Carson believes she's not certain about the timeline of conception. The judge's expression hardened. Mrs. Carson, are you saying you were having an affair when you conceived, Emily? Claire was crying now. I don't know. Maybe. I just want to be sure. You've had 3 years to be sure. Were you having an affair at the time of conception? There was someone, yes. Before Daniel and I got married. But we were on a break. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. A break? We'd never been on a break. Patricia leaned over to me. Did you two ever separate during the engagement? No, never. She stood up. Your Honor, my client states unequivocally that he and Mrs. Carson were never separated or on a break during their engagement or marriage. If Mrs. Carson was seeing someone else, that was infidelity, not a break. Judge Reynolds looked at Claire. Mrs. Carson, were you and Mr. Carson separated at the time you were seeing this other person? Not officially, no. So you were cheating on your fiancé? We were having problems. That's not what I asked. Were you having sexual relations with someone other than Mr. Carson while engaged to him? Claire's voice was barely a whisper. Yes. And this person could potentially be Emily's biological father. I don't know. Maybe. Judge Reynolds set down her papers. Let me get this straight. You've been telling Mr. Carson for 3 years that Emily is his daughter. He's raised her, bonded with her, been her father in every meaningful way. Now, in the middle of a divorce where you're asking for custody and money, you're suddenly claiming you're not sure who the father is. I just want to know the truth. The truth is, whether Mr. Carson is the biological father or not, he is Emily's legal father. He was married to you when she was born. His name is on the birth certificate. He's been her father for 3 years. Do you understand what you're doing to this child by bringing this up? I have a right to know. You had a right to know 3 years ago. You chose not to pursue it then. Why now? Richard Hayes spoke up. Your Honor, if there's doubt about paternity, it affects child support obligations. And there it was. The real reason. If I wasn't Emily's biological father, Claire thought she could argue I shouldn't have to pay child support, which meant she'd have less leverage for alimony. Except she'd miscalculated. Because if Emily wasn't mine, I still had rights as her legal father. And more importantly, I loved that little girl with everything I had. Patricia stood up. Your Honor, regardless of biology, Mr. Carson has been Emily's father since birth. He's established a parental relationship. Even if Mrs. Carson's claims are true, which we dispute, Mr. Carson's paternal rights are not affected. He is Emily's father legally and emotionally. Judge Reynolds nodded. Ms. Vaughn is correct. Mr. Hayes, your client's strategy here is deeply flawed. If she's trying to reduce child support obligations by claiming Mr. Carson isn't the father, She's simultaneously arguing that she's been deceiving him for 3 years about the child's paternity. That's not going to help her custody case. She looked at Claire. Mrs. Carson, do you want to proceed with the paternity test? Claire looked at Richard. He shook his head slightly. No, Your Honor, Claire said quietly. Good. Because, frankly, I don't care who the biological father is. Mr. Carson has acted as Emily's father for 3 years. That's what matters to this court. She picked up her gavel. Here's my ruling. Primary custody to Mr. Carson. Mrs. Carson gets visitation every other weekend and 1 evening per week. Mr. Carson will pay no child support as he has primary custody. Mrs. Carson will pay no child support as she has no income. No alimony will be awarded given Mrs. Carson's adultery and the short duration of the marriage. Mr. Carson's business is separate property and will remain his. The house is separate property and will remain his. Marital assets to be split 50-50, which amounts to approximately $12,000 per party. Is that clear? Yes, Your Honor, Patricia said. Richard Hayes looked defeated. Yes, Your Honor. Good. Divorce granted. Court adjourned. The gavel came down. I sat there, trying to process what had just happened. I had primary custody of Emily. Claire got almost nothing, and her attempt to use paternity as leverage had backfired spectacularly. Patricia gathered her papers. Congratulations, Daniel. You won. I didn't win. Emily won. She gets to stay with me. That's the right way to look at it. We left the courtroom. Claire was in the hallway, crying. Brett had his arm around her. He looked at me and said, "This isn't over." "Yeah, it is," I replied. The judge ruled. "Emily stays with me. You're just her mother's boyfriend. You have no rights here. I'm more of a father to her than you'll ever be." I stepped closer. "You told a 3-year-old girl that I'm not her real father. You lied to a child to make yourself feel important. You're not a father. You're a man who's sleeping with a married woman and playing house with her kid. And now that the divorce is final and Claire has no money, I wonder how long you'll stick around." His face flushed red. "You don't know anything about me. I know enough. Stay away from my daughter." I walked away. That evening, I picked up Emily from daycare. She ran into my arms. "Daddy, can we get pizza for dinner?" "Absolutely. Whatever you want, sweetheart." We got pizza and went home. I helped her with her homework from preschool, gave her a bath, read her 3 books, and tucked her into bed. "Daddy, are you and Mommy done being mad at each other? Mommy and I are going to live in different houses now, but we both still love you very much. Do I have to live with Mommy sometimes? You'll visit Mommy on some weekends, but you'll live here with me most of the time." "Good. I like it here with you." "I like it here with you too, baby." She fell asleep holding my hand. I sat there in the dark, watching her breathe, and felt overwhelming gratitude. She was mine, not because of genetics, but because of the 3 years I'd spent being her father. The diapers I'd changed, the bottles I'd fed, the tears I'd wiped, the books I'd read, the games I played. Biology might matter to some people, but it didn't matter to me. Emily was my daughter, and I would protect her with everything I had. 6 months later, I heard through mutual friends that Claire and Brett had broken up. Apparently, once Claire had no money and no leverage, Brett lost interest. She'd moved into a small apartment and gotten a job at a retail store. She saw Emily every other weekend, but the visits were awkward. Emily was polite but distant. Claire had lost custody, lost her lifestyle, and lost her boyfriend. All because she'd made bad choices and then tried to use our daughter as a pawn. I didn't feel sorry for her. I felt sorry for Emily, who deserved a better mother. But I'd make up for it by being the best father I could be. A year after the divorce, I met someone. Her name was Lisa, and she was a teacher at Emily's preschool. We took it slow. She met Emily as her teacher first, then as my friend. Then, after 6 months, as someone I was dating. Emily loved her. Lisa was patient and kind and never tried to replace Claire. She just became another positive person in Emily's life. 2 years after the divorce, Lisa and I got married. Small ceremony, just family and close friends. Emily was our flower girl. At the reception, Emily climbed into my lap. "Daddy, are you happy?" "So happy, sweetheart." "Are you?" "Yeah. I like Lisa. She's nice. She is nice. And she loves you very much." "I love her too. And I love you, Daddy." "I love you too, Emily. More than anything." She hugged me tight. I looked across the room at Lisa, who was talking to my mother. She caught my eye and smiled. This was my life now. A daughter I loved, a wife I respected, a home built on honesty and trust. And somewhere across town, Claire was living with the consequences of her choices. The paternity question she'd raised in court had backfired completely. Instead of reducing her obligations or gaining leverage, it had shown the judge her true character. She'd been willing to throw doubt on her own daughter's paternity for financial gain, and the judge had seen right through it. I held Emily close and thought about how differently things could have gone if I hadn't documented everything, if I hadn't been present in Emily's life, if I hadn't stood up for myself and my daughter. But I had. And because I had, Emily was safe, loved, and thriving. That was all that mattered. Not biology, not revenge, not proving Claire wrong, just making sure Emily had the life she deserved. And she did. She really did.